Let me tell you what I know about softening stones. Actually, I can't soften stone, and neither could our ancestors. What they discovered was a completely different thing, a chemical process that can be used to break down the stones into their components and then reassemble them. This is the secret of ancient civilizations, stone casting. An important piece of information for you is that what I'm saying now is not meaningless nonsense. This is practically all something that I try in practice. I never believe anyone that something is possible or impossible, but I try it. This is how I move forward. It's somehow in my nature. If an expert says it, if someone else says it, I simply don't care about their opinion. I'll try it. And it has happened countless times that the expert opinions were not based on reality. This is also the case with this stone melting. We are in the Pilis Mountains, and this is the part around us called the Zivani Rocks. We came here because the rock here contains andesite, which is a rock like in Peru. If you're interested in ancient cultures, you've probably seen huge ancient structures that were put together from giant rocks of inexplicable size without mortar, and their fit is so precise that you can't put a single sheet of paper between the stones. And then there are those damn big rocks. Well, here you can slide a sheet of paper right in, so they are no longer next to each other. In Peru, the indigenous people still say that their ancestors were able to soften stones with the sap of a certain plant, and so precision walls were built from these soft stones. Well, it's not a coincidence that I made this soft stone here now. Wow, that's already fixed. We will now get to know the secret of this. Now I'm going to take this down from here. The material is bound. What you see here in my hand is not softened stone. It's a completely different technology. You need to forget the misconception that stones are made of stone and cannot be broken down into their further components. Of course, these are also just chemical substances. They consist of the same molecules as all other substances in the world, in nature. Rock solid, believed to be unbreakable. Granite is just a complex chemical with all its properties. Condition, melting point, chemical properties, etc. Now that we've clarified that, we can go back to the legend. Legends usually have a basis in reality. The city of Troy is now known to everyone to exist. Stone softening is also a legend that has a grain of truth, but as the Peruvian Indians say, that's not true. It is not the juice of a certain plant that softens the stones, but the juice of the ashes of a certain plant that corrodes the stones. And this is now a true sentence. To understand this, we will go into a little kindergarten level chemistry. There are two types of corrosive substances, acids and alkalis. Acids are contained, for example, in fruit juices, wine, vinegar. These are all weak acids. Then there are also strong acids, such as hydrochloric acid. All of them are corrosive, and certain stones are otherwise broken apart by the acid. This is what I am going to demonstrate to you now. I brought a piece of limestone with me to show the effect of acids on limestone. And this is clearly a stone of a completely different color. This is limestone. I'll prop it up just so it doesn't fall over. And this is plain household hydrochloric acid. And now please come closer, because it will be very interesting. It will be bubbly. Just have the stone in it, and I will try to drip on it. See? Oh, and what's also interesting is that here it corrodes the limestone nicely. You can see it from the bubbles. And where it spilled onto the andesite, it doesn't have any problems. That is a completely different type of stone. So acids know this, but it can be seen that the acid did not harm this volcanic rock, andesite, and did nothing with it. So we saw that the acids did not corrode andesite. Here, for example, the granite was not even etched away. Their enemy is alkali, but that doesn't mean that if someone washes a piece of granite with a piece of soap, it will fall apart. There are many ordinary alkalis that are enemies of this type of igneous and volcanic rock. For example, home drain cleaner, which is sodium hydroxide, and such as ash lye, which also does this. The drain cleaner, sodium hydroxide, is a very strong alkali, and yet it does not corrode the granite. The reason for this is that something else is needed. namely that this very strong alkali needs to be melted, so the secret is the fire. Those who follow my work know that the first time I managed to etch granite with washing soda, a kind of washing powder, or also known as natron, with exactly the same setup, but the granite was inside the grill lighter chimney, but now it's outside. Well, that alkali, the caustic soda, melts at 851 degrees Celsius and corrodes the granite. I always wonder how such a technology, such as this stone etching, can be discovered completely by accident. What is the antecedent that arises completely by itself in nature? It can be observed and further refined, so it is easy to develop technology. My classic example is wine. How to discover winemaking? It's plain simple. A bowl of fruit should be forgotten in a bowl, and in a week's time, if we are lucky, there will be wine in it, and if we are unlucky, it will be vinegar. In one case, we discovered wine, in the other case, vinegar. Both are useful raw materials and can be used, and can be further refined in the process. For a very long time, I did not find the automatism that is necessary for stone etching, how it occurs in nature, and I couldn't find it because it really happens very rarely only in certain parts of the globe, and even there under certain conditions. However, the Peruvians were lucky. They have ash lye that melts at a surprisingly low temperature, practically melting at kitchen temperature. You don't need to make a huge fire, you don't need a bellows, you don't need anything. During an ordinary barbecue, just as the Peruvian Indian roasts a guinea pig, artificial stone can practically emerge in the ashes. The lands around Cusco are salty, there is table salt in the ground, and from this salt it also enters the body of the plants, so the ash lye made there contains both potassium and sodium hydroxide. And the melting point of the mixture of these two is really low, 168 degrees Celsius, while if you make a cake, you have to bake it at 200 degrees. So there is practically no challenge for this mixture of two substances to reach the melting point. This is a mixture of the two measured alkalis, potassium hydroxide and sodium hydroxide. Absolutely clean. So I didn't get this from ashes. I could have made it from ashes. We'll put the heat source on top of it when it's hot enough. I said earlier that this is refined sodium hydroxide and potassium hydroxide, in other words, a substance refined from the ash juice of a Peruvian plant. And now I put the glowing coals on top of that. You can see that it is glowing down there, and the temperature will come out of there that will melt this alkali here. And we'll see what comes of it. I melted the stone in a pot, which you will see shortly. I didn't put the details and chemistry of it in this video, but I put it on YouTube and on my website as well. So if someone wants to do the stone etching experiment after me at home on an electric stove in a pot, they can do it. The recipe is public. Interestingly, for my little home experiment, someone just threw in $200,000 to have real scientists recreate, reproduce, and verify my results in real lab conditions. So maybe this will soon lead to scientific papers, and I'm not the only one telling the world here that this is how it works. Now, after this little chemistry lesson, let's get back to the Incas. So the Incas could observe that while they were baking, frying corn, and guinea pigs, and I don't know what, stones are created in the ashes. I would rather say that they noticed stones in the ashes that they did not put there. And this is where the trick of human nature comes in, that after a while it says that if neither he put it there nor the gods put it there, then it came into existence. And so observing even tiny grains, so let's say even such tiny grains, that if they are formed in a fire as stone, it is already a basic phenomenon that can be observed, refined, broken down into steps, and technology can be built on it. Now let's take a look at what this stone etching looks like in a small pot with Peruvian ash lye. I measure 25 to 25 grams of potassium hydroxide and sodium hydroxide. I mix this up in a 50-50% ratio. I mix it dry with 100 grams of sand and put it to boil in a pot in a glass of water. That's practically it. In about 30 to 40 minutes, the chemical reaction is carried out, and my sand, which is silicon dioxide, will be nicely corroded by these two alkalis. A completely different material is created, called water glass. Water glass? What is that? Well, you can still buy this today in chemical and DIY stores. It is a liquid that is used mixed with concrete for its fire resistance and other properties to make it fireproof. When they try to make a furnace fireproof, they use it there as well. But the point is that it is a stone-forming material. As the Inca cook finds the small stones in the fire, even if they are this big, he starts to think about how this could have come about, and he can break this process down into steps. And he will notice that there are not only stones, but some white powder among the ashes. And that white powder is practically this water glass. Only in dry form, well, it dries up in the fire, obviously. If you mix that white powder with water, you will get this version. And this is a stone-forming material. So much so that if someone has heard of geopolymers, well, geopolymers are made of water glass and metakaolin, or water glass, and a mixture of another material. And if this is a stone-forming material in the 21st century, then it was obviously a stone-forming material a few thousand years ago. And now let's think about the fact that the Inca cook accidentally messes up such a glue, a stone-forming material. What will he do with it? I think he will make a stone with it. Let's mix a little artificial stone here for ourselves. Ingredients: water glass. And this is the ashes of pine. It is important that it is pine because there is aluminum oxide in this ash. And then the actual mixing, we take a small amount of water glass. Let's say that's it. Then we sprinkle ashes into it. Oops, this is overturned. It's okay, it'll be good anyway. By the way, I think by the time we finish shooting, it will be hardened. My first stones were also made of a mixture of ash and water glass. I simply mix these two. It sets dirt fast and can be very hard. Now let's get back to my pot for a moment. I boiled the alkalis and the sand into a water glass, and I pour it with water again. I continue cooking, then I mix in more sand and make a pie out of the whole thing. I'll apply it, let's say I'll apply it here. What will happen with it? If I apply this mixture here and there, an artificial stone layer is created. And if we look around in Peru, we see that there are inexplicable planes and cuts, supposedly cut into the natural rock, which requires very precise and powerful machines. But if we turn this formula around and say that it's practically just plaster that someone has smeared on it, then it's not so mystical. And on top of that, I can show you a picture where you can see that this particular thing is an added layer, a plaster. For example, in this picture that I show you here, you can see that the bricklayer has pulled his trowel. In the case of this other one, it seems that the matter has overflowed. So you can see from countless small signs that this is an extra anointed layer. And then let's not even talk about the fact that these anointed layers are chemically different from the original rock. Accordingly, their color is different. Simply their color tells us that it is a different material. One day I found a huge block of stone in our house between the first and second floors. It is huge, irregularly shaped, and so precisely fitted between the two floors that a sheet of paper cannot be inserted between them. And I wondered how they brought this here, what tool they used to lift this huge 60-ton stone block. And then I realized that it was brought there with a concrete mixer, and its name is a slab. Good, but then where is the mold? And if we look at the mold of a concrete slab in this context, then this is not such an important question. Each concrete slab weighs 60 tons, is precision, does not have a mold, and a sheet of paper cannot be inserted between them. Imagine that these were poured into some kind of animal skin bag. The animal skin has long since rotted, and here is only the rock. I also have an answer to nubs. These are the little bulges on these cast stones. It is worth watching my video about stone casting, in which I explain that in order for these cast stones to be created without bubbles, there is a special series of steps, a protocol that must be followed, and if someone follows it, they simply have to leak the stone somewhere so that the excess liquid flows out at the end. Because the secret of bubble-free stone casting is that the whole thing has to be done under the liquid surface in a bag, then obviously no air is trapped in it, but then the juice is on top, and it has to be drained somewhere. That's the story of the nubs. Now I'll show you my knee-length obelisk, which is also a stone casting, and surprisingly its shape fits exactly with this plastic trash can I made it with. Isn't it wonderful? My next goal will be to make and cast a waist-length obelisk. I don't know yet whether I'm going to make it out of sand, or now from granite rubble, or if I want it to look a little more like Peruvian stones, I'm going to make it out of andesite. There is actually a weak point in the pot experiment, that the pot will sooner or later be ruined. It will also be eaten by the alkali. Where did the Incas, the Egyptians, or anyone else have an alkali-resistant pot with which they could make this cooking? And the answer to this is that, of course, there was not. However, if this whole cooking process is done on the surface of a stone and the water glass is made that way, then the top of the stone will remain. These scoop marks and indentations are created, but in fact no one is bothered by the fact that the pot and the stone will run out over time in this process. But it's one thing to be smart, and it's another thing to try the same things in practice. Shoo! Turn it around, why? The stone was broken. Oh, the stone snapped. Oh shit! Damn it, I really didn't expect this. It practically fell down and the stone broke. And it couldn't stand the heat. Alright, let's gather what's left and continue the experiment. Let's see. Come closer, please. There are a few things to look at. I removed the charcoal from it. Well, listen, I'm going to put this back on it. There is some of the molten alkali that has not flown away. And here is such a nice blue something, see? Zoom in on it, please. There is this certain blue color, which has already occurred to me several times. Anyway, that's what happened. Let's carry on with chemically breaking down the stone and making water glass. Now I'll show you the secret of the exact stone fitting, so that not a single sheet of paper can be inserted between them, not even by accident, and not a razor blade. Usual ingredients: a small amount of water glass, a little ash right now, pine ash like this. Let's mix it. And now we're going to make a flawless one. I'm going to create a joint between two stones that you can't even put the sheet of paper between them. That's how it is. We come back in a quarter of an hour and see how it went. This is the previous one. It's practically knocking now, so it's in very good condition. This is where it sits. Done. Wow, look at what happened. Well, so much alkali remained, we boiled it a little more and it dismantled the andesite, creating this beautiful blue substance. This beautiful blue and white material dissolves completely in water within 24 hours, producing the water glass I used to cast the stones. I've completed the entire cycle, from stone to water glass and back to stone, several times now, so I know this works. Whoever tries to put a piece of paper between them, good luck. And here is the new stone, the artificial andesite next to the andesite. In summary, I can say that this technology could have been available everywhere on the globe. It can be discovered. It etches volcanic and igneous rocks in the same way. The secret is that it needs sodium hydroxide and potassium hydroxide. It can be produced using ancient methods. It can be used to make water glass. It can be used to make stone in Egypt, Peru, Japan, Korea, Sri Lanka, Russia, and everywhere in the world. And it is as simple as pie. So the real question is, if it's so simple, how is it possible that today's global civilization has no idea about it? And while we still don't have an answer to that question, at least we do have one for how to soften stone.